Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and I just got back from the new film Oculus. Most horror films, particularly in a post-Halloween horror world, start with kind of an incident that started the events that would transpire within this film. And the incident happened a long time ago, and now that thing has effectively come back. A lot of films talk about that incident throughout the film, an annoyingly amount of times throughout the film. Usually you only get like a cool sequence at the beginning, but that's about it usually. Oculus isn't like that. In Oculus, you have the current timeline and the past timeline, the incident they keep referring to, playing basically at the same time. So they're cutting back and forth constantly. So it's got an interesting spin on a genre, but it kind of needs a little more than that. This boy Tim, played by Brenton Twates, I think, who has just come out of a mental hospital after being put there after an incident with his family where his mother and father were killed. He's finally being released on his 21st birthday after the recommendation of his psychiatrist, and he meets up with his sister Kaylee, played by Karen Gillian, and he has been freed and told everything that happened was kind of a delusion in his mind. Until he gets out, Kaylee picks him up and tells him that she has found this mirror, the mirror that destroyed their family, and they're going to go into the house where they used to live in that hasn't sold in all these years because it's a murder house. And murder houses don't sell, I guess. I don't know. So Karen Gillian decides to put the mirror in the same house. Why in the same house? I don't know, but I guess it was a free space. She puts it in the house, and she's been doing research on this mirror. She got it through the auction house where she works at, which kind of seems like, how did she get that job? Like, did she major in auction house stuff in college? But she gets the mirror and wants to try it out and try to videotape it and discover and prove to everyone that the mirror has been doing all this stuff all along. Tim is kind of freaked out about this and skeptical because he believes that it was all kind of a forced memory and a delusion he had from a child, and Karen Gillian's character of Kaylee is going to show Tim that all of this was real and that the mirror is actually haunted and has been haunted for like 400 years. This is an interesting horror movie, but more interesting than actually good, but I still think it's interesting enough that if you're a horror fan, it's worth at least kind of a watch, because the way they cut between the two timelines gets confusing, but in that cool kind of horror way. Certainly the mirror and the rules behind the mirror are a little odd, since you're not sure, is it haunted, is it driving them crazy, is there a world behind it, what's going on. It kind of has all those things. It plays off the perception of these two kids a little bit, which was interesting. I wish it had kind of played off of, in a Rashomon way, not have them each tell the story from their own perspective, but cut between those perspectives a little more, play with that a little more, entertains these ideas, but then keeps getting very traditional and too much of a genre horror film. It's kind of a different take on just a typical genre horror film, and I like how it just takes just kind of a boring genre haunted house, kind of haunted, well, it's a haunted mirror, but it's in a house. It's effectively a haunted house movie. I like that it twists the genre and does something kind of different with it, takes a different idea with it. This is directed by Mike Flanagan, who came from a previous horror film that Caldwell 13 was talking about on his review, how that film is very good. It's called Absentia, and apparently cost very little money. This film actually only cost $5 million. I kind of get that this director, Mike Flanagan, I get that he's an interesting genre director, and from this you can kind of tell this isn't just like a typical, like, let's have a haunted house movie kind of thing, but it's kind of more than just doing a different twist on a genre film. It's a pretty creative idea, the mirror tricking them and not sure which reality they're in, and the viewer not being sure which reality they're in, and the way it does it is kind of very smart, and it kind of shows very smart genre director behind it. Now it kind of ends up ruining the climax, because it felt like you knew where it was gonna go because you knew where it was gonna go at the beginning. I almost feel like this is a film that would hold up to repeat viewings, because there's probably things I didn't notice this time that I might notice a second time. I don't know if I'd really want to, but I'm intrigued enough that if this was on cable, I probably would. Since it has such a different view on just a simple kind of genre film, it makes it a little bit more. It makes me kind of interested in this director. The guy who plays Tim, Brenton Twates, I think, isn't very good at all. He's pretty weak, and I honestly felt like he was genetically engineered to be a weak lead in a horror film. He looks like the type. Karen Gillan, who I enjoyed on Doctor Who, I actually thought did a decent enough job, not an incredible job or anything. I was kind of more impressed with her American accent than anything, but it wasn't really that great of a character anyway. No, none of these characters are really that interesting. Kitty Sakharov, she definitely goes through a lot in this film, and she has to portray a lot of things. A lot of people have, almost every review, they compliment her performance, and I think she actually did do a pretty good job in this film, since she's the one who gets tortured the most by this thing and by her husband. But the acting doesn't exceed really a simple genre film. It is a little riskier, a little ballsier than just a simple genre film, and to see a genre kind of what looks like someone who wants to be a genre director but doesn't do something interesting with genre, I think is a good enough of a reason to kind of seek this movie out and see it. But it's not something that's going to inspire you or thrill you or surprise you. He's kind of just a genre director who has a little bit more ingenuity to him. That makes this film like a little better than your average kind of mainstream Hollywood horror movie. If this had been done in a normal way, I wouldn't really even care that much about Oculus, but because it took a different turn with it, it kind of makes me think about this concept and think about this director. It's a genre film with a bit of a twist to it, but not too much of a twist, because it's still an average genre horror film, just, you know, with a little more ingenuity. But I don't think that makes it like a better movie overall. It just makes it a little more interesting. So if you have seen Oculus and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.